So, I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm an author and a transformation coach. I specialize in career, life, and business coaching. My main focus is I help entrepreneurs, professionals, and creatives discover their identity, develop their skills, and dominate their gifts so that they can thrive with passion, purpose, and fulfillment. I was working in banking at Wells Fargo over a decade ago, and I essentially went through what looked like maybe like a quarter life crisis. I was probably a little older than that at the time.
I want to
Thank you.
welcome Aisa as my special guest today. And I am just very curious about you, learning more about you as an entrepreneur, your background, how you serve the communities that you add value to, and how you got the inspiration for the Glassdoor Co.
Okay, sounds good. So, I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm an author and a transformation coach. I specialize in career, life, and business coaching. My main focus is I help entrepreneurs, professionals, and creatives discover their identity, develop their skills, and dominate their gifts so that they can thrive with passion, purpose, and fulfillment. I was working in banking at Wells Fargo over a decade ago, and I essentially went through what looked like maybe like a quarter life crisis. I was probably a little older than that at the time, but I was feeling very unfulfilled, unhappy, lost. What sparked it was actually a death of my daughter's grandfather. But nonetheless, I think it just made me, question a lot of things. So I prayed for a very long time for a job that would lead me to passion and purpose, but I didn't know what that meant. So no idea at all. Fast forward, I left banking. Well, what I did was I took inventory of what I liked, but what I was passionate about. And I decided that, well, I'm really good at sales and I love people. And it just so happened that I was recruited by a headhunter to be a professional recruiter. So I went into recruiting for several years. And then from there, I was recruited again to become self-employed in 20 and so in 2018 I was recruited to essentially start like my own LLC and work essentially doing like splits under a larger organization as opposed to me working for an agency or corporate recruiting like I was doing prior to that. So that's essentially how I gone into entrepreneurship, and that's where it all started. Thereafter, I also started a online furniture store. So I'm the founder of HauteMonde Furniture, which I still have. And I'm also the co-founder of Top Shelf Social, which is an inclusive event planning business, particularly like in the cannabis and psychedelic friendly spaces. We heavily promote businesses and brands that are women owned, BIPOC owned, LGBTQ owned. We're all about just building community, collaborating, and promoting each other's businesses. So that's kind of me. And I'm also an author. I'm in the process of publishing a book. It's called Awaken. I suffered, I learned, I changed. It is a book on self discovery, holistic healing, and transformation. It's definitely like your companion and your roadmap if you're feeling lost, stuck, or hopeless, and feeling like you are uncertain of where your path leads. This is definitely a book that you would want to get your hands on for sure.
I got to visit your pre-sales page on Amazon where we can, learn a little more about what the finished work will be about. And it was very enlightening.
Thank
You
you.
also have sent me a lot of resources too. I don't know if you remember because you have that personality where I can tell you genuinely find joy out of helping women in business and just whoever you connect with on their path of discovery. And so you sent me a survey. It was called, I don't remember the specific name, but it was like the Awakening
Like
survey.
a like a questionnaire.
Yeah, a questionnaire. And I was looking through the questions and I was like, this is really good. Like, this is very self reflective. And I don't think it's like a one time, like a one stop thing. I think as we evolve and we grow, moments where we need to self reflect come full circle. And so it's something that you can use in all levels of personal development and all levels of business endeavors.
Absolutely. I'm very much a believer of a holistic approach. I spent all of 24 focusing on becoming made whole. That was my primary focus. It meant, in a physical sense, I had surgery in early 24. I had my second back surgery. It was spinal fusion. And becoming made whole to me at the time was healing, regaining stability, healing my strength, my core, and then the rest of my body to follow, but it became so much more, which was so what I essentially did was the framework that I was living by, that I was also coaching. I started implementing it in other areas of my life. So it wasn't just an awaken framework for your business. It was an awaken framework for your relationships. It was an awaken framework for, you know, physical healing, emotional healing, trauma, whatever it is. Like I was going through this framework so that I can really integrate it into my life.
Yeah, I appreciate what I appreciate most too about your coaching style and your coaching approach is that you're literally coming from real life experience. I have had conversations with people who are in coaching spaces that I just don't feel like they're well versed in. And I think if you are going to offer people authenticity, you have to be able to empathize with them because you know what it's like to fill those shoes.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it what it brings to mind is with all of the different life changes, having gone through the process of not only physically healing, but becoming whole spiritually, how did you maintain like such a high level of ambition and execution? Because you wear many hats and you've launched many businesses and you maintain those today. And I think the majority of people would have just given up, you know?
That's a great question. I think on getting so clear on your vision and being flexible with the plan. So I've had to learn that multiple times. I've had to pivot. I've had to learn also that it's not failure. The pivot was, it was learning what's working and what's not, who to work with, who not to work with, and just focusing on the intention as opposed to the distractions. And so I feel like God gave me these certain visions and they were just clear. I think back then they just seemed like no big deal. You don't really pay too much attention to it. But then there's enough confirmation. I'm a woman of faith, so I got a lot of it. And, I feel like every situation or person that I came across, it was like confirmation that leads to whatever it is. And I believe that if you move with authenticity, move with love and integrity, the results are going to follow. So, like I said, I'm talking about, when I said that stuff about Wells Fargo, I didn't think about that, 5 years ago. It's not until now, almost like just over a decade, where I was like, I literally prayed for that. And that's why I stand so true for it to be part of like my mission, vision, and values. These aren't buzzwords that I'm using. These are words that I've been praying on, been living by, been using for several years. And so when it comes to the other businesses, I feel like they all kind of have had a purpose also, whether it be so that I could meet certain people, gain certain skills. And so they all are just stepping stones for the next thing that I endeavored. And it leads me to the right communities. And so I think it's just really staying focused on the intentions and having a lot of faith. And I have a lot of hope. So I count it all joy too. So in everything that's happening, despite the challenges, I'm always looking for like the lessons and the gems that I can take away.
That's such a phenomenal mindset. The level of mental fortitude is necessary in entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is heavily spiritual. I think a lot of times we get motivated to start based on the possibility of the financial gains, but it's like the process is constantly mirroring to you areas where you need growth and where you can fill gaps and where you can learn lessons. It's remarkable to hear your story and for you to share it with us and for you to be so transparent and vulnerable in front of, what are some of your favorite go-to like self-care routines or that you go to that keep you sustained and fill you back up when like you're pouring so much of yourself into your clients into your communities.
So I heavily integrate getting my sun, steps, stretches, and scripture in.
Yeah.
So I don't try to stay rigid on like what time of the day specifically does this happen or for how long I do it. I do have it very much scheduled into my calendar in a sense. So, excuse me. I have routines in place, I have rhythms in place, therefore I have room for things to come up, but I make time for all of those things. I typically work outside. So, and it doesn't really matter the weather. I like to be outside. And what happens is while I'm working, I often take breaks to, I do take smoke breaks. I like listen to the birds. I practice mindfulness throughout the day multiple times. I'll do stretches. So I sit, but I'm also in pain. So I like to stand while I'm working. I use like a standing desk, but then I do a lot of stretches in between. I have a kettlebell, I have resistance bands, I've got like, so all of these, I create, a certain ambiance and environment in which I'm going to thrive. Right. And so, and obviously sun just, boosts your mood and it's good for you. I'm melanated, so I embrace it, you know, and my scripture. So, I incorporate God into everything. It's not like only on Sunday. It's like, God, I'm confused about this. I don't know what the heck I'm doing about that. Or these people, like, what help, you know? And
Yeah.
so I just incorporate that all throughout the day. And that's what helps ground me, keeps me focused, helps me have clarity and inspired to do what I got to do.
Yeah, you really embody a certain level of emotional intelligence and spiritual, like really high level, high quality spiritual energy. I know we all have our days where our frequency or maybe our vibe or the emotion that's flowing through us isn't always upward spiraling. But I always get this sense of just pure energy from you. And like you are a very intriguing woman. And just to have your universe kind of like in your home and in your office, it's all circling around you as a center. And I think that's a system you create when you're really in tune with yourself.
I think so. No, that's a great way to put it. Absolutely.
I'm excited for the audience to hear this. We stress ourselves out trying to live up to expectations that don't fit who we are or what it is that we've been called to achieve. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage everyone to embrace their worth. As a recruiter, I was essentially, so I look for my candidates, I look for the qualified people that are specific to whatever the job is. And oftentimes, I want to know what it is that they are looking for in their next opportunity. And they're an expert in their field, but they're not an expert in embracing, like really understanding the true value of what they bring to the table. So it was my job to let them know, like, you're actually at this price point. These are the skills and qualifications that you have that people are looking for. So I just highly encourage like everyone to tap in so that you can awaken that potential inside you, because really that's what your purpose is, I believe.
Absolutely. It really takes a leadership quality, like a natural born leadership quality to see greatness in people and know what it takes to encourage them to pull that out of themselves. I think that's the true measure of a coach. It's not making people think you have all the answers and you're the only one with the access to source. It's like, no, I'm showing you that you have connection to source, you have connection to greatness, and I want you to live in the truth of that.
Absolutely. So my goal is essentially to awaken that part of you that you either may have never known or have forgotten about. Absolutely.
We're going to get right back to this talk. I want you to click the link in the bio here or in the description of this video. I have officially launched a entrepreneur business solutions school where I am teaching you all how to access $1 million or more in business funding that is debt-free and can really boost your revenue and give you that strong foundation to build on for a pivot or to revive your suffering business. It is only $98 to join. You get access to the community for an entire calendar year, which is less than 50 cents a day. We have a virtual co-working space, special events, a lot of perks. I've uploaded some really cool information that's going to help you navigate everything from properly structuring your business, making sure you have the right NACS codes, the right business profile, that you know the difference between grant writing, contract writing, and actual contract and grant submissions. So we're going to have guest speakers come on and talk to you about all of the essentials of navigating business successfully. What I have found when I hop on one-to-one consulting calls with a lot of entrepreneurs, people have a really great idea, something that is wildly amazing. There's a huge need for it, but they're not thinking of it from a perspective of longevity, of starting off with a really strong foundation and not burning through their cash assets. Did you know that over 60% of women's businesses fail due to a lack of funding? And likewise, our male counterparts, about 45% fail. And this is all in the first year. Even less than that are successful beyond year 2, 3. And out of that new business phase of year 5, only less than 10% last past 5 years. And the even crazier part is only 1% of business reach an organic growth of $1 million in revenue. Okay, so why do it the hard way? I want to show you my super simple 6-step way that I have been accessing hundreds of thousands, even millions of startup and scale funding for my elite business solutions clients. And you are welcome to join with elite entrepreneurs, experts, and others who are going through the same things as you. We're going to make sure you're in that mindset to stay focused. And it's so much more than just the masterclass. It's being able to succeed in a community of mission-driven and like-minded entrepreneurs and leaders. So click the link. I want to see you inside of the community. And I can't wait to share all of this amazing wealth of wisdom, knowledge, and easy strategies. So let's get back to this talk. What are some things that you're looking forward to? Because I know you're heavily involved in like mental health and wellness. And I always enjoy receiving the emails and newsletters from you and your company. And you sent out one recently about Mental Health Awareness Month. And what are some things that you're looking forward to? Maybe like some of the discussions or like the things you're going to highlight for your audience and your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So with mental health awareness, I mean, I'm a huge advocate. I love to essentially, so my business, Grassdoor Company, it's really about opening doors of opportunities and options and optimism for those who just they're not aware, they don't have access to it. So it's really just absolutely raising awareness and opening that door for them. So with mental health awareness, in my book, I kind of talk about different modalities of health and therapy. And so I just want to share more information about that. I'm planning my book launch party is likely going to be in the summer, so late June or early July. But what I'm planning on doing is collaborating with hopefully some sponsors in the wellness spaces, holistic healers, different forms of everything from, art as a form of healing. And I recently met a coach who does, I want to say she wrote a book also, and it's like path or like paint your pathway or something like that. So I want to collaborate with different forms of coaches, therapists, practitioners, all within the space so that my readers essentially know what types of resources are available to them. I want to raise conversations. I started Awakening Unfiltered, which is my free community that's hosted once a month, every last Saturday of the month. And that's really for me to help create spaces for people like ourselves, entrepreneurs, professionals, creatives that are experiencing a lot of different feelings, transitions, challenges, but ambitions and goals and dreams, and they just don't know who to share it with. Sometimes they feel embarrassed or alone to bring up these parts. So then they only talk about, the surface level stuff. I'm not the surface level coach. I'm going to ask the deep, profound questions and create space for my people so they have the ability to grow and bloom into who they're really meant to be.
That's really good. That's needed. There's such a wide open space and such a huge need that needs to be filled for that, because I find myself having a desire to go beyond the surface level, because so much of what I do is spiritual. So much of how I sustain myself and grow myself is rooted in spirituality. Like I start my day with prayer and affirmations and really wanting to feel like connected to source and just this energy that you just you cannot get on your own. You can't get it from the physical realm. And to say that you do feel the resistance from others when you want to be that person that goes down that more spiritual path and that more deep path. And people feel almost awkward or bombarded and sometimes even attacked when you bring up certain things or emotions or feelings or conversations that they just aren't ready to have. So I'm excited for what you're bringing in entrepreneurship and that door being just like wide open for there to be a sacred and safe space held for entrepreneurs to be able to really take that deep dive into emotional and mental well-being. Can you recall any like early life experiences or any earlier experiences as you were developing as a professional and as an entrepreneur where there was someone who was a positive impact or positive influence that made you lean more into the spiritual side and that depth of your coaching style? Also, even if they're like cultural background influences and things like that, would you share some influences that kind of has propelled you in this direction?
So you're asking about on the spiritual side, right? Spiritual.
Yeah, you being willing to courageously open up the door for that conversation that has more depth, because a lot of people that just won't even go into that space, you know.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So it's a great question. I love the authenticity. So I love where this is going. I would say maybe my grandma. It wasn't so much that it was spiritually led back then from the way that she like taught me or led me, but I think that there was a certain level of like humility and love and authenticity that she, poured into me. And then I had, like a difficult childhood thereafter or like early adolescent years and whatnot. And whenever I came back to my grandma, she always asked me questions. And that was just her approach. She never shamed me. She didn't blame me. She didn't accuse me. She listened and she asked me questions. And I think it essentially helped me, discover whatever it was that I was supposed to come to learn, you know what I mean, and reflect on. And I think it was just because she created space for me. Yeah. So, as I grew up, I wouldn't say that I necessarily had anyone was around me that was more like spiritually led or that guided me. I think there was just like pockets of people. And even then I was very resistant. So even what you're kind of talking about with people who could be resistant to it, I can recall the handful of people where I was like, they just bother me with like how they're trying to like save me or convince me or whatever. But at the end of the day, what that was, it wasn't alignment yet, until like the right, or whether it be God's timing or the right person or whatever the case was, that's what slowly started like opening up, my awareness on another level. And then I think I just tapped into it thereafter. But to answer your question again, I think it was my grandma that kind of instilled it, poured it into me, and then I embraced it. And that's the part of me that I really try to nurture the most because I think all of my other attributes kind of stem from there.
Yeah.
At least the good ones.
Yeah, I feel that. I was feeling that just from the way you hold space for other people and the way you navigate kind of gently getting people to open up and keeping that sacred space with no judgment.
I love that. And I must say too, I think that I was very blessed that I had great mentors and not necessarily on a spiritual level, but I think it's just the different mentors that I've had, they all opened up a certain level of awareness that was what I needed in order to at least tap in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. So I want the audience to know how they can connect with you. I share with the audience how they can connect with you, whether it be on your website, on your various social media platforms, and how to get your book and stay abreast of the events that you have upcoming and sign up for your newsletter that you send out.
Love it. So if you guys are watching this, absolutely like pause, scan this QR code right here, scan it, screenshot it, hold on to it. It should open up, a new tab. But that's my link tree, so you'll find everything there. I should be the only Aisa Magsombol that I know of. So feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. On Instagram, I am the Grassdoor and _, as well as Aisa Marie Writes and Top Shelf Social. But again, everything can be found at that right there. You can subscribe to my newsletter. You can join me and my community every last Saturday of the month for Awakening Unfiltered. You do not need to be an entrepreneur professional. Come as you are, leave inspired is my, motto in that room. What else do I have upcoming up? My book, it is available. The ebook is available on Amazon now. Pre-orders for the paperback and the hardcover is available on my website, which you again can find right there on the link.
Awesome. I love that you put a QR code. Thank you. I think the easier you make it for people to find you, they don't get those missteps between the inspiration and taking the action. So
absolutely. So take action, don't wait on it and come as you are. So a lot of people are like, I'm not ready for it yet, or I need to have this certain level of success or whatever. No, not in my communities. I love that you said that you feel seen, because that's absolutely one of my, goals. That's what I'm passionate about, is for my people to feel seen, heard, valued, and that I create spaces for everyone like you. So I love that.
yes, thank you. Because sometimes I even still find myself, even with the level of confidence, self-assuredness, and just the level of tenacity that I move with at this age and at this level of expertise and experience, sometimes I find myself feeling too deep. Like, not to take away from what other people's journey or experience is. Sometimes I feel like an ocean around a bunch of ponds or like puddles of water. And not that someone's puddle of water is insignificant, but I think it can be scary for people to encounter me or kind of like, ooh, like I'm not ready for that. And so I have found myself kind of holding back some, but you definitely encouraged me just to show up in my fullness and to analyze like where I can show up more authentically in certain spaces, in certain conversations and connections with people. So this has been very enlightening and enriching. This talk has been. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I would put yourself in the rooms that you should be in, or, you're supposed to plant yourself by living water. So if you're saying that these other pools are the ones that you're pouring into, but you're not being poured into also, like, we got to move this stream along somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. I never want to be emptied until I take my last breath. That's the only emptiness I want to pass with, knowing I put out as much potential as I could, and I tried as much as I could, and I tried to help as many people as I could. But other than that, I have to stay full. I have to stay encouraged, and I don't like feeling burnt out or like stretched thin, because I can't show up my best. And I think none of us can when we get to that point. And we definitely need those equitable relationships where people are pouring into us too and filling us back up.
Absolutely. I'll share my framework. So it's Awaken starts with awareness, work it. And every time I say work it, I think like Missy Elliott, like work it. Okay. Yeah. That's how it is. Alignment, knowledge, embrace, and navigate. So whatever it is that you're going through, that's essentially like the framework that I like to refer back to. And obviously, it takes time. So a lot of people want to awaken. It's an ongoing thing. It's not a one-time thing and all of a sudden we're so enlightened we know exactly what to do. It's an ongoing framework. So yeah, I would use that and at least have some kind of baseline foundation, I should say, on how to start your journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for pouring so much of yourself and your wisdom into this interview and this talk today. It's been a delight, like very much my pleasure. And I'm excited to see what you produce and what you put out. And thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for creating and holding space for me. And I'm excited for everything that you're going to accomplish as well.
Thank you.